Good morning, everyone. We are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a few folks still filtering in, and we'll cover some housekeeping items and then jump into the presentation. Welcome to the first Procure to Pay Open Forum of 2020. Our plan is to continue delivering these on a semi-annual basis as long as they are generating value, and so far we've gotten great feedback, and we will continue to do that. Our format today is that we will spend 1 hour covering updates, some content in procurement and accounts payable and travel, and this will be followed by our Supplier Diversity Fair, which will take place upstairs in Chesapeake. And Lake and Marley's going to talk a little more about that later, but we hope you'll be able to join us for that. This is unusual in that the Supplier Diversity Fair usually happens in April. This year, because of our Procure to Pay project and the great opportunity to capitalize on those of you in the room who do sourcing, buying for your areas, we are testing this model to have it a little earlier, give you the ability to engage with these suppliers while there's still time left in the fiscal year to make a difference. So we look forward to testing this model to see how it goes. A few basics: we are going to be recording today, so if you miss anything, there will be a playback option probably about 2 weeks before that's available. And the protocol for question and answer, just to keep the program flowing, will be to jot down any questions you have on the index cards given, and we'll collect them throughout the day. If you've been to one of these before, you know the drill, and we will try to answer as many as possible while we're here before the session ends. If we run out of time, we will get them all published and communicated out to everyone. And if you would like a personal follow-up, be sure to add your name on that card. Let me start by thanking Julie Davenport for helping with the setup, Jeff Herrick for the video, Chandler Agate, thank you Chandler, we appreciate all your help, and Erin Muskowski and Lake and Marley from Procurement Services. So one announcement, yes, thank you, well deserved, thank you. Let me make one staffing announcement for Procurement Services as we kick off. When we were together in October, we told you that Bill Vega accepted the position of Contracts Manager. This happened after Stacy Longest left William & Mary, and now we are close to selecting Bill's replacement, sourcing specialist, and a second change that's happening, John Dixon will be reassigned for the length of the Procure to Pay project. So we appreciate him taking on that new role. And filling in for John, the new support specialist for Procurement Services will be Lake and Marley. So all things Eva, Cobblestone, DocuSign, but we will give her, what do you think, a week to get up to speed? So in short order, we will be starting a recruitment to find a new small purchase credit card program administrator. So you can be on the lookout for that announcement. Okay, without further ado, I will turn the program over to Mara this morning.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Yes, I'm Mara Austin, Assistant Director of Procurement Services. Wanted to just start off with an agenda. We are abbreviated this time for the P2P so that everybody can enjoy the Supplier Diversity Fair. We have some procurement updates, and then Accounts Payable will be providing some updates and best practices for you as well. So to get into it from Procurement Services, we'll give you a Procure to Pay project update. America to Go, we will provide you with some information about the SWAM for small women and supplier and minority businesses, as well as the sustainability dashboards. Also, the Supply Room Company catalog refresh. It has a new look to it, lots more streamlined. GovSpend, which is a procurement tool that we are using to give you some information on that, and supplier diversity. So to give you all a little background, if you were unable to attend the Procure to Pay demo, how many people were able to come to that? Did anybody watch the playback on it in Cornerstone? Great, okay. So just briefly to give some information on that, the Commonwealth announced plans to replace the state's e-procurement system, otherwise known as EVA. They've gone out for a solicitation and are working through that process right now. This gave William & Mary a great opportunity to look at this and say, we're kind of at a crossroads. Should we continue to use EVA or whatever that replacement would be? Or should we really look at this as an opportunity to become more strategic in how we source, procure, and pay our goods and services for the university? So in the fall of 2019, we evaluated those options, and we made the decision that it would be best for us to move forward with a true full cycle of a procure-to-pay system, because regardless of what EVA comes up with, it's still going to be an e-procurement tool. They are not going to be able to provide us with that full life cycle because we use a separate ERP than what a lot of the state does. So you have to get a cardinal number, right, in order to be able to process payments to a vendor in Banner. That is the payment process system that the state uses. And so EVA needs to satisfy the masses, right, a lot of those traditional state agencies. So we'd still be working with an interface system that's not going to be real time. It's going to have some clunks and issues with that. So we moved into entering into that contract with Jagger to implement that comprehensive procure-to-pay system. Some of the objectives that we're looking for this, that overarching objective is really to maximize operational efficiency and eliminate a lot of the manual effort. We're still very paper-based. We don't have a lot of workflow set up, and when you're looking at different processes, depending on the type of thing that you're purchasing or those services, it can be really difficult to know how to navigate. We also wanted to improve that client experience as well as the access to the system. So in Jagger, it's going to be really helpful because anyone that has William & Mary credentials can access the system and be able to submit a request. So there won't be any extensive training that they have to go through like they do with EVA now. They won't have to get the notifications about, hey, you have to log in every 90 days or we're going to close your account, and then all of the frustration that comes along with trying to get that set up again. We also wanted to have a more of a one-stop shop approach. So we tried to do that with the tools that we had available to us, and we worked through that procure-to-pay matrix, right? All of your commonly purchased commodities are available in one place to look at, but you still click out of the matrix in order to access or process your requests through everything, right? So you have your procure-to-pay matrix, but if you're catering, you're going out to America to Go, right? Or if you're getting something from the supply room, you're going out to their website for that. And then we have the forms for the different types of things that you're purchasing, whether it's an independent contractor or a speaker. And then there's different things that you may have to do with it. So you punch out, you go out to the independent contractor process, then you have to go over to EVA and put in your purchase order, right? So it can be very fragmented and very difficult to navigate, especially if you don't purchase those types of things very often. We also want to increase the speed or the cycle time in which you order, in which you're ordering and receiving those items. So it's really important that we are able to do this through more efficiencies and more utilizing the technology that we have available to try and automate the system and stop having the paper-based workflows where you're manually taking something over to someone to review and approve. Also have that transparency. So one of the benefits in Jagger that we talked about previously for the project team was the ability to have the suppliers be able to go into their account and see where the payment process is. So has a check been cut? What date was that check cut for them? So hopefully it will minimize some of the questions and the phone calls that you are receiving because they can actually go in and see where it is in that system. Also, it's going to have that integration with budget. So It's going to, when you put in your order request, it's going to check against Banner to make sure that you have funding available, which can be very helpful for those with sponsored programs or that are really trying to watch closely on their budgets. We also have the strategic partnerships to maximize that value on campus. So a lot of times people are going out, and especially when they're new, they're looking at different ways to purchase their goods and services, and you tend to fall back to what you typically do in your personal life if you're not familiar with how the university conducts business. But we have a lot of contracts that are in place, right? They're either mandatory or preferred that we want you to use. And a lot of times you don't know that if you don't know where to look. So the system is going to help guide you through that process and make sure that you're choosing the appropriate suppliers so that you're within compliance without having any problems. Another thing is that we are going to minimize the small purchase charge card transactions. And we're doing that, Lakin has spent a lot of time working with us to try and right-size our program. Remember, when we first moved forward with the procurement changes at William & Mary, we were trying to get an opportunity to streamline things for you all, and we thought we did that with the small purchase charge card. Now we're going to take it a step further, and we want to actually have this truly be a one-stop shop. So we're going to limit those P-card transactions, have everything funnel through that system to provide that uniqueness for you and not have to wait for that delay in posting. So there's a lot of benefits in using the system, and we hope that you'll see that as we move forward with this project. Real quick, can you at least raise your hand and say if you're a part of the Procure to Pay project team in any capacity, whether you're an advisory, whether you're a functional user? Yay, thank you guys. We want to say thank you to you all for agreeing to be a part of this project. And you saw some of the hands that are up. It's going to be a very large endeavor that we're talking about, and we appreciate all of the time and effort that folks are taking to provide us with feedback. Another thing that we're doing is we're establishing discovery meetings for process flow, and for those that are very specific, like Sponsored Programs has a very specific workflow and approval flow that we need to get a better understanding of what our current process is so we know how we can make it more efficient moving forward, taking that into consideration. Also going to be talking to budget, VIMS, and facilities management on both sides for the maintenance and operation and the capital construction for that. Our communication plan is taking place as we speak, so we're still in the process of trying to name that system, and we want to thank you to those that submitted ideas. We got some really exciting and innovative ways, and it's a great way for you all to take some ownership and take partnership in this project with us. Our project team will be narrowing down those ideas, and then the top 3 to 5 will be transmitted to the campus so that we can choose that and narrow that down. And next month, we will be kicking off our introductory meeting with the supplier to start working on the system. We also had the Procurement Advisory Council. So for those of you that came in the fall, you may have heard of it, and anybody could raise their hand if they're a part of the Procurement Advisory Council. I know we have some in here as well. Thank you, guys. If you saw those hands, just take that into consideration. If you have anything that you want to discuss or talk about that you think that needs to come up to us so that we can try and see if we can look at that through a different lens. When we talked to them, one of the first things that we discussed in the first meeting was the P-card infraction review, so the small purchase charge card infraction review. We've had it for a year and a half? 2 years now. So let's look at this through a different lens. We've heard from many different folks that they'd like to have a different outlook on that, and we always said that it was a fluid thing, that we would reassess and change as needed. So one of the biggest things that really came up was the review of the cardholder infraction when an approver doesn't sign off. And completely understand. So right now what happens is if your approver's not signing off, you're getting essentially punished for it, right? Your card is being suspended, you have to change your processes, but what's happening to the approver? They're approving something differently, that's about it, right? So the accountability and the responsibility transfers to you. So we're looking in a different way on how to handle that, and that was something that came up routinely through that. Also looking at how to reset our infractions. So what does that look like? We don't want somebody to have had a card for 5 years and still be holding on to an infraction that was placed on them 4 years ago. How do we reset this and give everyone the ample opportunity? You know, we have the trainings, we have the refreshers every year as well to kind of reset that clock for them and give them opportunity to kind of start fresh. So I mentioned that, you know, you have folks for here in the Procurement Advisory Council. You can always come to myself as well. So if you have any questions, feel free. Anybody have any index cards yet with any questions? Okay. One other thing, the Procure to Pay project table, there's going to be a table at the Supply Diversity Fair too. So if you have any specific questions or just want any other information, Catherine's here. Catherine is the other project manager for the Procure to Pay project as well. So feel free to come up to us and ask us any questions. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Dave to provide an update on ATG.
All right, thanks. Can everybody hear me in the back, Aaron? Good. All right, great. I'm going to talk about America to Go and also the Supply Room Company, some changes that we've got with those programs. First with America to Go, as you know, that's the system we're using for all on-campus catered meals. We rolled that out back in September of 2018, so it's been about a year and a half now that we're on the system, and for fiscal 19, we did about 3,400 transactions at about $1.6 million. For fiscal 20 so far, about 2,600 transactions at about $1.2 million. So we should really surpass the fiscal 19 totals. We're seeing a lot of volume through the system, and it's working pretty well. We've upped our vendor count from 32 when we first implemented the program to 73 live vendors. Some of the newest vendors are Dog Street Pub, the Trellis, Blue Talon Bistro, and the cafes in all the different schools on campus. So you'll see them listed under School of Education or School of Business. That's what it'll say on the vendor tile for those vendors, and they're available for pickup service. We've got a couple of enhancements I'll talk about today as well, the SWAM and sustainability dashboards. I mentioned them in the last P2P, but I can kind of show you what they look like on the next slide. And then we'll talk a little bit about coming soon, location testing. I believe we talked about that as well, but what we're doing there is thinking about how the system can calculate per diem in different areas. So we're testing with Newport News right now so that when you want to have a function in Newport News, you can still use America to Go, and it'll create an order based on the correct per diem calculation, since the per diem in Newport News is different than the per diem in Williamsburg. We're going to expand the dine-in option for some of these new vendors, particularly. I know Blue Talon Bistro, when they came on with the dine-in option available. We need to do a little bit more work training on our end, as well as training with the vendors, just to get everybody comfortable with that, because it's a little bit different than just a checkout order where you're going to either pick something up or have it delivered. A fun thing that's coming out are William & Mary reviews. So if you look at the system right now on the vendor tiles, you'll see Yelp ratings, which are kind of good because it gives you an idea on how that vendor performs, but not specific to William & Mary. What the William & Mary reviews are going to do are replace those Yelp ratings. So as you submit reviews for the vendors, it'll go into the America to Go system, and then you can see what other people at the university have experienced with that vendor. That's not going to roll out very soon. That's probably about 6 months away. But I think it's kind of cool to give us a little bit more visibility on how those vendors are performing. The ATG dashboards have both been implemented. They're up and running. The sustainability dashboard you can see on the left there, that's going to talk to how you're purchasing compared to how the university is purchasing sustainable items. And then the SWAM dashboard, same thing but for SWAM vendors. So my spend looks pretty bad there because I don't buy anything at 0%, but if I made orders, that number in the middle would be higher. And then what you see in all the way on the right is total William & Mary spend. So if we're looking at this sustainability spend with William & Mary as of the date I took this was 19%, and then with SWAM spend being around, was that 29%? The sustainability tile is also live, so maybe should have changed the picture on that to bring everybody's attention to it, but kind of smack in the middle up top, those 3 tiles is William & Mary sustainability tile, and when you click on that, it'll pop up all the criteria for the sustainability program. So we went ahead and rolled that out with low waste and zero waste options. There are local and sustainable options, as well as a green restaurant certification. That information's there. You can also see how you can request food recovery for your event. Just a ton of information. There's some fun facts on there too about what's recyclable and what's not, and just more information on sustainability if you're looking for it. On the TSRC side, we wanted to make a change to the buying experience for individuals. I mean, whether you've been here a while or whether you're new, it's difficult to find items in the catalog. So what we did was we looked at thousands of items based on what we purchase on a yearly basis and picked out some of the best value items. Kathy, are you here? Kathy Mabe? Maybe she's out there still. Kathy and I look through thousands and thousands of items. I know more about pens than I ever wanted to know about pens. I know about 0.5 millimeter and 0.7 millimeter and 1 millimeter bold and rollerball and gel type. They're all still in the catalog. We didn't restrict any items, but what we did was create short list items so that if you click on the markers, pens, and pencils tile, it'll bring you to a short list of about 10 or 20 items that represent the best value for the university. The idea here being that maybe someone's new and they don't know how much we should really be paying for pens, and they would be more likely to maybe pick out like a $10 pack of pens where we can get pens for $2 or $3. So I'm going to walk into the system and show you what it looks like live, but just know that the full TSRC catalog is available. So when you're in the system, it looks just like it did before, kind of at the top. We got rid of a lot of the noise up there, the scrolling banners and other stuff that they want you to buy, and we put our site-specific or university-specific information out here. So if we click into these markers, pens, and pencils, you can see the products that are available, and it's not many. It's in this, it's 32 items, and they cover highlighters, pens, pencils. It's not the cheapest pen or pencil or marker. It's what we consider the best value. So if people were buying a lot of, violet gel pens, we have violet gel pens on there, the best type for the best value. All right, so the TSRC quick ship refresh is still kind of pending. We're working through some of those products for the furniture items. You'll see them when they're available. I don't think it's up yet, but I'll check here. Okay, so that is available. So if you wanted to get out there and see those best value items for quick ship furniture, they're there as well. A couple more things to talk about with TSRC and ATG. They will both be Jagger punch-outs. So once the e-procurement system is set up, both of these will be punch-outs in the system. And then also want to talk just about the TSRC waiver process. So the TSRC waiver process needs to be gone through anytime you want to use a vendor other than TSRC for office supplies. So TSRC is our mandatory vendor for office supplies. You can see the link there where the waiver can be filled out. That waiver should be completed before any purchase is made. For reasons like the project we just completed, I mean, we used the purchases that we make in TSRC to make a decision on the university on best value items for a core list. If we're not able to see those items because they're going through different suppliers or no waiver was ever requested, the likelihood of those being added to that short list are really slim. So that's all I've got for TSRC and ATG. I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca after I ask for anyone who has index cards to please hold them up, and we'll come around and collect them. You got one? Two? A couple on that side? All right, thank you. And here's Rebecca.
Good morning. Thanks for coming today. My name's Rebecca Kincaid. I'm a fairly new person in the Procurement Services Department, and my commodities include IT, hardware, software purchases, and also lodging primarily. So today I'm going to talk about GovSpend. It's a hard act to follow with Dave there talking about food and office supplies, but I'll do my best here. GovSpend is a fairly new software tool that we've just procured, and it gives us a view of pricing information and spending information for local, state, and federal agencies outside of Virginia. So as you well know, within EVA, we have the opportunity to look at what we've paid in the past for certain products, what other state schools have also paid. So my few minutes are going to be about GovSpend. This assists with the price comparison and supplier history. When you go to the website, it's primarily set up, the language is used primarily to appeal to salespeople, so that they can look at past history and have an upper leg on their sales promotions. But we've been using it to check pricing and to see where we're at compared to other institutions of similar size. And it's been very had positive results with that so far. So if you need a price comparison, then for anything that's over $5,000, please reach out to the procurement email, and we will certainly assist you in that regard. So I'll take you to the website. I'm not as brave as Dave with having a live technical moment, but when you go to the website, GovSpend website, you have several options. Price check, that's what I primarily use, and that's why we have a circle. There are bid specs. You can evaluate cooperative contracts that compare within different regions and agencies. Historical spending, you can get a quote, and then vendor information. So I'll give you an example that we used recently within procurement. We had, this summer we had a requirement for an IT product associated with Board of Visitor meetings. So we plugged in, you can plug in the supplier or the part. If you have a part number, that's great. If it's a technical item and you've got that much. And then you go on and you put in the price that you've been quoted. Then you hit enter, search, and the swirling dervish goes around, gives you a moment. It's very, I don't know, get you kind of excited about what the result's going to be. And then boom, you get your result, and it's color-coded also. Well, my quote that I had was not good. So it said poor. So the next question is going to be, well, what can we do with this? So as you can see, not only do you get a color-coded result for how your pricing stands with the other quotes, but you also have a graph of how it compares. So then they go through within this website, and they list not only they give you the date, so you can start with the most current date, and then you can see which universities and agencies have used that product. And it'll highlight the same words that you've loaded and give you the price that they've paid. So when we found out that we were not doing very well with this, of course we went back to the supplier and asked for some consideration. So we went back and looked at some similarly sized schools, as I've mentioned, and the number of licenses that they had at that location, and approached the supplier and said, well, this is where we're at, and Louisville's here, and Fayetteville State's here. Texas A&M is paying even less, and they're huge. And they came back and said, oh, we've got a special summer deal for you. So it works. It's successful. So the supplier came back and said, here you go. They reduced it by $6,000 or 30%, over 30%. So if you do have something that's, as I said, over the limit of $5,000 and you think this would be a helpful tool, then just go ahead and put in your request through Procure to Pay, and we'll be more than happy to assist. So this is just something we wanted to bring up. It's a tool that's available and hopefully helpful to you as you're making your purchases for the state. And that's about it for me. If there are any questions, go ahead and write them on your little cards, and we'll take them up about GovSpend. And next up is Lakin Marley, and she's going to talk about supplier diversity.
Hello. So as you know, I'm Lakin. I'm going to talk to you about some supplier diversity reminders. So William & Mary has a 42% expenditure goal for the utilization of SWAM, or small women and minority-owned vendors. As you can see, for our FY20 quarter two spend, we're only about at 33%, which is the lowest we've been in a really long time. We do need your assistance as purchasers to help us fulfill our SWAM goals that are set by the state and to ensure our continuance of our Tier 3 status. Supporting SWAM businesses helps ensure that there are consumer choices, diversity for purchases, and there's a level playing field for small suppliers. Supporting these SWAM businesses also contributes to our overall commitment of diversity and inclusion at William & Mary. So how can you help? Please consider a SWAM vendor first before going out to a larger or big box store. A list of currently certified businesses can be found in the SWAM vendor directory, which is located on the Small Business and Supplier Diversity website. This is a clickable link, so when you get back, you can go right to the website. SWAM information is also listed on the matrix as well as in Cobblestone under the contractor name. We do have a few new SWAM vendors under IT, facilities, and freelance services, and all of these vendors are actually at the Supplier Diversity Fair, which is being held immediately after this at 10 o'clock in Chesapeake A and B, so we invite you all to come up there. We have over 30 vendors who are ready and waiting and would love to meet you and talk about any purchases that they can help you make in the future. So now I'll turn it over to Accounts Payable.
Hi, good morning. So for accounts payable, we're just going to bring up a few things for AP and travel, just review the honorarium policy. Ruth is going to talk for LaDonna, since she's out on maternity leave still, for business meals. And then just information on some upcoming training for accounts payable. So the honorarium policy, as you know, we just updated that. So the definition of an honorarium is basically a thank you to an individual who at no charge is providing a service to the university. It's a token payment to show a gesture of appreciation. So eligibility, honorariums may be paid to persons of professional or scholarly standing in conjunction with an academic activity. Honoraria may be paid to foreign vendors, but they're subject to the restrictions of the visa classification. And as you know, we updated the amount that you're allowed to pay to an individual for an honorarium. You cannot go over the $1,500 limit. So if your payment is $1,500 or more, then the payment must follow the appropriate university procurement protocol, which would be the speaker, performer, independent contractor process. Okay, I'm going to pass this on over to Ruth.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Ruth Erb. I'm the Managing Director of Accounting Operations here at the college. Hopefully, I know most of you. So, like Amber said, LaDonna is on her maternity leave, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit about some of the issues we're encountering when processing business meals. The one that often comes up where there seems to be some confusion is whether a business meal for internal training and functions is allowable under certain conditions. So the definition that we have posted on the website is that for a business meals to qualify as an internal training and functions meal, it must be provided to participants of only our internal group, right? So everybody's from William & Mary. The business must be conducted through a time of a meal, and the session must last at a minimum 2 hours. I believe the confusion comes in whether if we have a meeting that lasts over 2 hours, can we expense it? So I have a few examples here. I did this for another department that were encountering several issues with processing this type of meals. Sample number 1, we have a project review. I said you're all sitting on, this is going to be, as an example, maybe a commencement activity review. So you have team members from all over the university participating, and you're reviewing whatever the agenda is going to be and the guests that are coming in and whatnot. You meet maybe twice a year, all members of William & Mary. Would that be an allowable meal under the training function? And the answer would be yes. The business meal lasts over 2 hours. It involves employees from all over the university, and it occurs once or twice a year. Our example number 2, we have a team meeting to review practices and procedures. It happens once a year. It is a regular meeting the department is hosting. When those kind of questions come into our office, we have to ask and follow up with questions because we don't understand what exactly transpired. So it could qualify as a reimbursement, or it may not, depending on the answer. So you guys always will hear from us, okay, can you tell us a little bit more about what the function was all about? If this is a regular meeting that is hosted throughout the year and you're just involving department staff members, those will be considered just a regular staff meeting, and it would not be allowable reimbursement. But if this is a meeting where you are bringing all your department staff, it's annual, this is your opportunity to discuss successes, failures, lessons learned, it would qualify for a business meal as it appears to be a training activity. So again, it would depend on what the purpose of the meeting is about. Just meeting as a regular meeting event in the department would not qualify for reimbursement, even if it lasts over 2 hours and it has a business agenda. Example number 3 is when you have a meeting with students. Some people are under the impression that if a student participates in the meals, it will be an allowable reimbursement. When a student participates in a meal, because they are your employee and they're there participating as a member of your team, as an employee, then it's just treating them the same. They don't have a treatment of being a student just for that meal purpose. So we encounter that when you have a lot of grad students working in your area, and you're gonna have a business team meeting, and because the students are participating, everybody is going under the assumption that is allowable. So I want to caution you about that. So myth number 1 for us, meals may be served at any function in which students are in attendance. That is false. It depends on the actual activity. Myth number 2, meals may be served at any function that lasts over 2 hours and has an agenda. That's often what we encounter. Oh, we had a meeting, here's an agenda, and it lasted over 2 hours. That does not meet the requirement under the policy. So I'm going to have this posted. We have this posted on our website right now. And again, when we post the P2P presentation, you'll have access to that. So before you have if you have a business meals and you put in it through the system and you have doubts, maybe call us and have a discussion so then we can guide you properly on how to complete that activity in Crown River instead of us sending it back to you and then starting the conversation after the voucher is actually rejected. Accounts payable is having an upcoming training. We haven't announced it yet, but I think the first day will be March 18th. I think the announcement will come out in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about student payments. Usually, this is a refresher training activity that we do every year as the season of making payments to students for scholarship and research for summer, a period of non-enrollment is about to start. This year, there are changes. The process has been simplified, and the lead, I think I already contacted every finance director in every school to discuss the changes and how those changes are going to affect you. So I encourage everyone, once you see the the sessions being posted, I encourage you to sign up as soon as possible. It's a new process, and there are changes. Okay, this is the end of the presentation. I did get a question already on Crown River, so I'm going to take the opportunity to answer it. The question is, what is the current turnaround time in the Crown River expense report? The turnaround time usually depends on volume. So you guys know that whenever we get to a point where we have very high volume, I do send an email out to business managers, usually to let them know the turnaround time has increased. Right now, I just checked on my phone, we have 330 vouchers on queue. In an average day, we process about 50 a day. So to clean those 330 vouchers, it will take us 6.6 days. Meanwhile, more vouchers are arriving. So I will say cautiously about 7-day turnaround at this time, unless that volume increases significantly. That will be longer time frame. So Irma is going to come and close.
This is a new world record. We never finish early, so hurrah. Yes, any more cards? And we will collect them and attempt to answer those that we've already collected. So let me start out with a few. Someone asked, does SWAM status expire for the suppliers? The answer is yes. 5 years is the term, the eligible term for SWAM awards to stay current. And at the end of that 5-year period, suppliers have to recertify. And they are doing that through the Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. It used to be a 3-year cycle. It is now a 5-year cycle. Do end users have access to GovSpend, and should we use this for less than $5,000? That's a great question. One of our departments that's a very heavy buyer, IT, has picked up a license for GovSpend. I will tell you, we only have 2 licenses right now on campus, and we had some special pricing through VASCUP because we made the purchase. All 11 higher eds in VASCUP made that purchase, but if you feel there's interest in your department, if you're a high volume purchaser, we are more than happy to share that information. We'd probably go back through VASCUP to see if we could extend that discounted pricing if the supplier would allow us to do that. And we had to make, the license covers a 3-year period. It wasn't just a 1 year. So talk to us separately if that's something that you're interested in. Next question about the supply room. Does the supply room provide the opportunity to try ergonomic solutions before purchasing the item, such as stand-up desk chairs or keyboards? There are some pieces of furniture in the procurement services office. We encourage you to come by and see that. And speak with, is Mike here already today? I don't know if supply room is here, but Regina, okay. Talk to them and let them know what you need. They come out. If you haven't already met with them, they will come to your office. So it may be if that particular product is not here on site already, that an arrangement can be made for that to happen. We have a couple of questions about TSRC setup and back orders. So I need to find out about that, and I will make sure these are posted to the Q&A. But just thinking back on something Mara spoke about earlier, right now in, FY19, the fiscal year just passed, we had over 5,000 orders with the supply room companies. Fast forward to the new system, none of those orders will be on small purchase credit card. They will all be passing through that punch-out catalog that we talked about. The payment will be faster. You'll have full accountability on that, transparency. So that was just another advertising moment. Took advantage of that. All right, a couple more questions. I think Mara has some, and then Dave.
This question was in reference to the Procure to Pay project for the new system. Will there be a manual for this new system? The biggest issue with all these financial systems, whether it be EVA or the P card, is that you have to go from one website to another website to find the information. And even then, it can be difficult to find and or understand. Very true, right? And that's kind of what we discussed about having to go 5 different places to process one thing. So yes, and we will most likely be able to attach those manuals within the system itself so that you're not going to have to navigate or open up a different browser, that you could have that PDF available to you. The other thing is, we made mention that all of any end user within William & Mary, as long as they have William & Mary credentials, will have access to that system. So we have to make it as simplistic as possible, right? And we want to try and mimic as much as we can of what it feels like to you in your personal life. So what you're already familiar with. And that would just be for the requesters, right? The ones that don't typically have budget responsibilities, et cetera. Those order requests would be routed to the folks that do. And then you would be able to put in your allocations, et cetera. So just keep that in mind, yes, and that's a great tip that we will include in our project to keep up with, is making sure that we have those manuals or cheat sheets, tips and tricks available to you within the system for access.
I had a question on ATG. This person said they'd like more vendors earlier in the day, 11 a.m. or earlier, and throughout a few vendors they'd like to see on the program. Panera, if I had a nickel for every time I heard somebody say they want a Panera, I'd be doing all right. We know, yeah, Panera, they're at the top of my list. Every week, every Friday, I have a call with with Vivian Borden. She's our ATG account representative who handles vendor onboarding, and we run down the list of, here are all the requests I sent you, what's the status on them. Number one on that list is Panera. Au Bon Pan is a great suggestion. I didn't even know they were out here, so I was just looking them up before, and I see they're out by the Pottery, so we'll put them on the list for sure. But if you have vendors that you want to see added to the program, other than Panera, please email me and let me know. I'll send their information over to Vivian, and we'll get them on that list so we can follow up. We're doing pretty well as far as, when we started, we only had about 32 vendors on, and they were in very generic kind of cuisine types. So we've targeted a few more. We now have like a Vietnamese option, and we're getting ready to roll out a Japanese option, and we've got Mexican options. So the cuisine types are becoming more diverse. We're seeing more suppliers overall seeing the value in the program. Chick-fil-A is another one that's on here. With that, we're kind of just waiting it out as far as the on-campus Chick-fil-A has to wait a certain period before they're eligible for catering services. So we're hopeful that will come around soon. They really pushed to get the cafes online, so that was their first major priority. So after that, we'll really be pushing them to try and move along some of these other vendors they have relationships with. So with that, I'll hand it back to Irma to wrap up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave. We actually have a few minutes, so we will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining us today. You get a minute to stand up, stretch your legs, and then we hope everybody will join us in Chesapeake. There are a few ATG SWAM representatives, so you can also get some samples up there. And thank you very much for coming.